Nearly 50% of all traffic accidents in Japan involve bicycles, and that number keeps growing every single year. There are some serious threats that you need to watch out for, but if you're careful, it's safe for the most part. I cycle somewhere around 20 kilometers a day, 5 to 7 days a week. That's what, 400 kilometers a month, and I've only ever had one bicycle accident. And I will tell you about that in a second, but let's go check out what it's like to cycle the world's most populated city. So a bit of a fun fact, how fast it looks like I'm going is directly proportionate to how wide the shot is. Like right now, super wide, I'm barely moving, but it feels like I'm going really quick. Whereas if I punch in like this, it really slows things down, but we don't really get to enjoy the scenery. So we'll try to hang out somewhere in the middle today. But rest assured that I'm nowhere near as close to the objects around me as I look. Trust me, there's plenty of distance there. It's one of those mobile suitcases. There's actually a case of somebody getting stopped by Japanese police for riding one of those lately because they can be considered a motor vehicle. Japan just doesn't like new stuff. I want to show you something quickly. So since we're kind of talking about safety today, you may have noticed this already, but my hat here is actually a helmet. There's a certified helmet insert that I got for my hat, which is fantastic. Amazingly, you'll see this today. A lot of Japanese people just don't wear helmets in the city. Also, and this one's fun, because I want to remain entirely hands-free today and don't want to think about cameras, where I'm going to put them. I'm shooting most of this video on my Insta360 X4. I've got it on a pole just like this, and not only does the pole magically disappear, but it's shooting in full 360 at 8K, so I can just reframe all of this later and forget about the camera for today. Forgive me for nerding out, I just love the technology we have access to right now. But there are gonna be two main things that you need to watch out for in Tokyo. The first is going to be the Japanese approach to red lights. They take them as more of a suggestion, especially in the first couple of seconds. If it's only been red for 2 or 3 seconds, don't trust it. Japanese people will blow through them all the time. And the second is Japanese taxis. Taxis take out more cyclists, pedestrians, and even children per year than you can imagine in Tokyo. In fact, this intersection is a perfect example. The stop line is way back there. There's a bike lane right here. I watched a mother with 2 kids on her bike get smoked by a taxi who blew past the stop. Now, if we come back to this stop line, which bicycles also need to obey, you can see it's kind of hard to see around the corner, but he blew clear past this line to a woman who was crossing in this bike area. Terrifying to see. Now, most drivers in Japan are very courteous, so I still feel like it's going to be safer than cycling some places like New York City. But as passive aggression is Japan's national pastime, it's a pretty good idea for a few reasons to follow the rules. So I'll walk you through, not all of them, just some of the main ones. Now, as a general rule, bicycles need to use the street except for elderly and children. And one more situation, which is actually right in front of us here, where there's a dedicated bike lane and pedestrian zone on the sidewalk. And as you can see, you kind of keep to the left as a rule of thumb. Now, you're not going to find a lot of these dedicated bike lanes on the sidewalk. Like, there's none right here whatsoever. So a lot of people will still come up onto the sidewalks, but you've got to do so at a reduced speed. Even police officers will use the sidewalks. Now, most of these laws are only ever enforced if there's an accident or if they're on one of their ticket-giving, money-making campaigns that they do a few times a year. But sticking to the left side of the road, always stick to the left side of the road. And when it comes to one-way streets, like this one up here, this is one way for cars, but has this thing that says except for bicycles. So if I wanted to go down this one-way street, I can do that in the complete opposite direction, but again, sticking to the left. I feel like a lot of this is common sense. Maybe it's not. Maybe, let me know. Actually, it's something that might not be common sense, especially when you're going the opposite way on a one-way road. This one's kind of worn out, but there are also stop signs for bicycles going in that opposite direction. So I can't just blow through this because, well, I'll die. And yes, Japanese stop signs are a triangle of all things. I know it feels like yield, but that's a stop sign. Smartphone use is also an obvious no-no, and all of these things do come with tickets, by the way. But there's one that I don't know if they have in other countries because I've lived in Japan too long that I want to show you. It's called a Nidankai Usetsu. I guess a two-stage right-hand turn. And I've got a police box right over there, so if I don't do this right, they will stop me. I cannot just turn right at a light in Japan. I need to first wait for the light in front of me to turn green like this, then go forward and turn my bike to face in that direction. Now I'm pretty sure if I'm doing this 100% correctly, I've got to find some way to get myself behind that line, but I've never actually seen anybody do that or get stopped for it. So at that point we're kind of splitting hairs, but that is the Nidankai Usetsu. And we're good to go. You have to do the exact same thing on a genski or a moped, which while are limited to 30 kilometers an hour, amazingly, bicycles don't have a speed limit imposed on them for the road. And yet I've been pulled over for speeding once. Now, in all fairness, during this time I got pulled over a lot just because of probably two things. Number one, I kind of looked like I should be pulled over. I had spiky hair and loud clothing. It was terrible. And number two was probably the bike. You see, I was riding a bike because I couldn't afford the train at the time. It was too broke, which means I couldn't even afford my own bike. Therefore, one of my friend's retired dads gave me an old broken down mamachari, not too dissimilar to the ones behind us, but in just much, much worse condition. And I was booking down a hill at night and they pulled me over and literally asked, "Where did you steal the bike from?" It looked like I stole the bike. Also, these delivery guys just carting all of that around on bicycle, I love it.
営業所がそこなので、これを何回もこう繰り返しやるので、雨が降った時が一番大変ですね。
It was super nice, and there's no bicycle exception on that one-way street, so we'll go this way. But because of how much bike theft there is in Japan, they usually recommend that you register your bike. That way they can tie it to you, and they used to check those registrations all the time. But I really, really love some of these older buildings, and you cannot survive in the Stamachi or these kind of backstreet areas in Tokyo without a bicycle. Well, you can, but it's not a good life. There are many, many more rules, much of which even Japanese people don't follow to the T. So I think we'll leave rules at there. And I still have that story to tell you, actually, of the time that I got hit. But I kind of want to get across Tokyo a bit first, so let's do that. Dog's cute. Pretty sure that's not legal, but cute dog. See, now we're on a big open road. We get to pick up little speed. We still actually have to be careful of pedestrians though, because they'll just walk right across. But while we're heading across the city, why don't we give some love to our sponsor, NordVPN. You might know NordVPN, you might even already be using them, but in case you're new to VPNs and what they can do, the simplest explanation is that they can make your computer or device look like it's accessing the internet from another country or location, which could be super helpful, for example, in accessing content that might be blocked in your country. But I use it for two main things. Number one, anytime I'm on public Wi-Fi, like here in the city or at an airport. And number two, anytime that I'm looking to book trips for overseas. You see, using a VPN to make it look like you're booking from within the country you're hoping to go to has the potential of yielding cheaper hotel and flight results. Love the trains. Also, just a reminder that nothing is as close as it looks. Now, I keep NordVPN on basically all of my devices, and if you want to give it a shot, you can use my link in the description box down below, along with my code to give yourself a 2-year plan at a huge discount, as well as 4 extra months for free. The best part being that NordVPN has a 30-day money-back guarantee, meaning you can essentially try it risk-free. So give it a shot. Thanks to NordVPN. And back to our cycling. I've also got a fun tip on where and how to get interesting bicycles on the cheap in Tokyo. But first, I want to share that story with you. I promised you. That is a ton of rental cycles. It's a good thing. So it was a few years back, going down a street not too dissimilar to the one that I'm on right now, with some streets cutting into the side, when a woman completely ignored a stop sign and T-boned me full on. Now I did have the right of way, but none of that really matters when you're both just kind of laying on the ground in pain. But considering how many people I've already seen today completely ignore stop signs on both bikes, scooters, and beyond, this is one of the reasons why so many accidents happen in Tokyo. So you have to be extra careful. And I stopped because I really wanted some water. But because of how easy it is for stuff like that to happen, I almost always run a camera either on me or on the bike, now kind of like a drive recorder. In fact, the 360 camera has a drive recorder mode. Also, this right here, do not go into these. This is a highway entrance. Like, they are pretty clearly marked for the most part. Just don't be that person. In addition to the cameras, I should also add something like an air tag to the bike, because bikes and umbrellas are the two most stolen items in Japan, and that's just it's a cool truck. They're called Dekotora. Ginza gets a little crowded, but you bet your bottom dollar there's gonna be somebody in the comments who's like, Japanese don't steal. Yes, they do. Bikes and umbrellas all the time. In fact, the area of Okachimachi, which is really well known for jewelry, is known to be the biggest heist zone in the country of Japan. And in the same way that some areas are hot zones for theft, some areas are just a little more dangerous to cycle in Tokyo. For example, we're actually not too far from one right now. Let me show you. While major streets like this one aren't that bad, and as you can see, this even has bicycle guidance lines, there are some major streets that you should try to avoid if you can. Like this little section right here near the Imperial Palace. This is 3 lanes wide, and the far left lane is more than wide enough for bicycles and cars. But a large number of the accidents that occur here in Tokyo occur right in this space. So officers at the Koban back there will actually recommend people to use the pedestrian walk here, which comes with its own risks due to increased foot traffic, as well as these visually impaired blocks down here. These visual impairment assist blocks, I guess is what you would call them in English. I've never had to talk about them in English. Are high enough that bicycles with more narrow tires, when going over them, have the potential to just slip out, especially if it's wet. So a lot of people fall and get injured on these. Now, as we said before, while there's no designated speed limit for bicycles on the roadway, in areas like this, I believe it's something like 5 kilometers per hour, but with all the foot traffic around us, you can kind of see why. Just makes sense. I also saw this video once of this guy being like, oh, Japanese don't lock their bikes. Look, all the bikes are unlocked. And I feel like this is common knowledge at this point, but you do understand that all of these are locked, right? Like, not to beat a dead horse, obviously they're locked in there, but even the ones that aren't will A, lock themselves to a pole, and B, have a separate Japanese bike lock right there. The lock is just kind of attached to the bike. I know it might not be common in some countries, but I feel that's a fairly standard practice that's well known. Maybe I'm way off base. Let me know. Also, you have to be careful of parking, because if you either park too long in these spaces or park where you're not supposed to, they do come around with these big trucks that'll just up and take your bicycle away, and then finding it is a challenge. Sorry, I'm just really distracted by the bullet trains passing behind me. You will find it. It's usually going to be in a holding facility somewhere in that ku, that ward that you are in. But if you don't collect it on time, it might go up for auction. You know, with a lot of people here, we'll just walk this across. There are these auctions that they used to do, and they've changed the format of these a lot lately, so don't trust any of this information, where bikes that have been at these holding facilities for too long could be purchased by the average person. I think it was like once a month or once every 3 months. I believe it's now all been turned into some kind of lottery system, but long story short, really nice bikes on the cheap. So many people just abandon their bicycles around Tokyo, actually all over Japan. But you get so many fun little spaces like this to go through. Like, take a look at this. I love it. And remember when I said how Japanese people themselves don't always follow the rules? Well, sometimes they'll outright rebel in the opposite direction. Like this area behind me, this whole area is marked with "do not park your bicycle" signs, and that is exactly where people are parking their bikes and motorbikes. Japanese will do this with smoking as well. The number of people who just stand in front of a no smoking sign smoking, and yes, I've had the unfortunate experience of parking my bicycle somewhere I should not have and having it taken away. And it took forever to find it. I don't recommend it. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. We got trains above us now. You know, I started cycling through Tokyo simply because I did not have the money to take the train at the time, and it very quickly turned into an entire lifestyle, exploring Tokyo basically every single day by bicycle. Depending on your distance, using a bicycle can even be way faster than using the train as well. If I wanted to go from my studio to my home by train, I'm looking maybe 40-45 minutes, but doing the exact same thing by bicycle, I can do it in 25 on a good day, if I get all the green lights. Usually about 30 though. Don't know what that guy's doing. That is not a walkway. Every now and then, the hills are a little tough though. Gotta love Tokyo Tower. But I also just love that I've not once today had to think about my camera. Just set it up and go. I was originally gonna do this entire thing as kind of a full 360 video so you could look around inside, but YouTube's compression just kills that way too much. I've put a similar version up on my Patreon for anybody who wants to check it out. But my cameras, people will literally email me to ask me what camera I use for a video. It's almost always linked down the description. But there are plenty of things to watch out for, like boxes in parking spaces, parking boxes of all things. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know what you thought. Have you cycled in Tokyo? Do you do it regularly? Would you not even consider it? Let me know down below. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again real soon.